DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined now by CBS Sports national college football writer Shehan Jeyarajah. Shehan, good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to finally have a college football season.
You have games to talk about. Who did you get a better read on, Kansas while they were destroying Fresno State, or Kansas State and Iowa State slipping and sliding in the rain in Ireland?
Well, I think I got a little bit from all of it. The thing that I got for Kansas, I think, is that, their offense just looks so much more like the Andy Kotelnicki units. It was just Fresno State, so you don't want to read too much into it, but I felt really good about it. With that Kansas State-Iowa State game, it was so ugly. And don't get me wrong, these are two teams that thrive in the muck. I think that Iowa State definitely got to play that game on sort of their, plane that they'd like to play it. But, it's going to be fascinating to see them come back because both of them have big games coming up.
Are you now sitting, wearing, or standing, whatever you're doing, wearing a multicolored sports coat with a flamboyant style of pants?
No, we had to rush my daughter out the door to daycare, so I'm still basically in my pajamas.
Because I like your get-ups when I see you at Big 12 Media Days. You stand out for a multitude of reasons, and that's cool. It reflects your style, and I like that. And I read your pieces now, since we've gotten to know you a little bit, and you, like me, you like that BYU is going with Bachmeier. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I think that when you look at BYU, and frankly, when you look at Big 12 championship races, so much of the time the difference in this league is having dynamic players on offense. And, so I think about a team like Kansas State in 2022 where they have Deuce Vaughn, who's just able to be that final little nudge. And I think that with BYU, look, they had two guys who have played some college football in McKay Hillstead and Trayson Borgett, but I don't think that either really has the ability to add that dynamic piece, whereas I think that Bear Bachmeier, despite some of the issues that I know he will have as a true freshman, I think he does. And you look at this receiver room as well, there's, I think, a lot to be excited about, including Chase Roberts and Tiger Bachmeier coming over from Stanford. You look at the running back position with L.J. Martin, but I think that Bear Bachmeier is that final piece of, hey, you know what, we have the ability to truly go downfield to cause some problems. And I think that you even look during BYU's 11-win season last year, they relied on Jay Kretzlaff so much to be that game-changing playmaker, especially in the fourth quarter. And I think that they needed to find some way to replicate that.
How many of these explosive game changers do you think an offense has to have to be among the elite in the Big 12? And how many do Utah and BYU have?
Well, I think that you probably need, let's say, three. I think your quarterback probably needs to be one of them. I think that having a running back there helps. And then I think you want to have maybe one receiver who can really take the top off of a defense. And I'll tell you what, I think that is my question mark to some extent about Utah. I don't know if they have necessarily guys that I feel like are game breakers at receiver. I feel really good, of course, about Devin Dampier. Maybe he's worth, a player and a half with what he's able to do, both with his arm and with his legs. But I don't know that they have the dynamic piece at receiver. BYU, again, I think that Bear Bachmeier gives them the ability to maybe have a piece like that at quarterback. I think that L.J. Martin has it upside at receiver. And, look, they have a lot of solid pieces at wide receiver and tight end. But I think that is sort of a final piece as well, whether it is Tiger Bachmeier, whether it is Chase Roberts going downfield with more consistency. I think that's kind of a final piece to say, hey, you know what, to be a really good offense in this conference, I think you do need a mismatch at receiver.
This conference is striving for respect because most of it flows to the SEC and Big Ten. We know all that. And we had at ACC meetings, they're running their mouths that they're the third best power conference, blah, blah, blah. So we've got this situation at hand. And the non-conference seems like it means a little bit more for the Big 12. These games this week that are against Power 4 opponents, and we'll get your idea on how important this weekend is. I'll set up the games, and then you can answer the premise of the question, which I think you already got, is Auburn at Baylor, Nebraska versus Cincinnati. Now, that'll be played in Kansas City. Georgia Tech at Colorado. Deion Sanders attracts eyeballs. There's no doubt about that. And then, certainly we know about the Utes going down the Rose Bowl to play the Bruins. And then you've got TCU at North Carolina, which, would be just another non-conference game, but it's got Bill Belichick attached to it, so that's going to draw a ton of eyeballs to it, no doubt about that. So, answer the question on how important this weekend is for the Big 12 and its perception.
I think it's big, and I'll especially point to three of those teams that you mentioned, Baylor, Utah, and TCU. I think that all three of them need to win their games, and I say that for a couple of reasons. One, I think that all three of these teams are going to be in the Big 12 race at the end of the year. And the other piece of that, too, is that it's not just whether they can make the playoff as a conference champion. It's also whether they can contend potentially as at-large teams, if they can try to be a second team in the playoff. And the reality is, if Utah loses to a team like UCLA, that's going to be middle of the pack at best in the Big Ten. Or if Baylor loses to a team like Auburn, that also will probably be middle of the pack in the SEC. It doesn't just hurt their individual seasons, it hurts overall perception of the Big 12 heading into the month of November and December. So I think ultimately those are pivotal games, not just for the conference title races and not just for building some momentum. But I think that, again, like I'm not going to go as far as saying that the Big 12 can cost itself a second playoff spot in week one, but I do think that you are getting dangerously close. And it's not just these games. In week 2, Baylor plays SMU. In week 3, TCU plays SMU. Like, there are these pivotal matchups against teams that you might be up against at the end of the year from the big conferences. You have to take care of business to have a chance to get a second team in at the end of the year.
So how many of these Big 12 teams have to start off 3-0? I mean, just absolutely have to be 3-0 so that they have a chance to be ranked, so that they have a win over a power conference, hopefully, and depending on whose schedule we're talking about. And that then when they play another team that's 3-0, or if they meet when they're both 4-0 or 5-0 or whatever, you barely get penalized for the loss, but you get a big bump for a win.
I think that you really need those teams, especially that start the season ranked, to look really good. I'm thinking Arizona State, of course, Texas Tech. We'll kind of see where Kansas State lands after their loss to Iowa State. But Iowa State potentially now will have a chance to push towards the top 15 with a game against Iowa. So I think you really need those teams to deliver in a big way. I think that you also would love to see BYU and Utah potentially come through. I mean, they were two teams that were at the right on the edge of the rankings. So I think that if they play well in non-conference play, they're going to have a chance to be in. And I think that, again, we talked about their game off the top, but I think that if Baylor is 3-0 with wins over Auburn and SMU, then this is maybe like a top 15 team heading into Big 12 play with Kansas State and Arizona State on the schedule in the first half of the season. So I think that 5 or 6 of these teams being in that position would be really, really helpful for the conference. And again, I think that you really need the teams and brands that have a lot of momentum coming into the year to ultimately deliver.
You like the SEC going to 9 conference games starting next season?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think that, it'll be interesting to see how non-conference scheduling evolves as a result of this, because I do think that one piece of this is that there are, I believe, 4 teams in the SEC that play final week games against non-SEC opponents year in, year out. South Carolina, Clemson, Kentucky, Louisville, Florida State. And I hope that these matchups are not impacted. I hope that this ends up being additive as opposed to subtractive. But I think that overall it ends up being a good thing, because here's the reality. I mean, when you compare the SEC to the Big 12 and the Big 10, there's an extra loss being handed out to half of the conference because they have a 9th conference game in the Big 12 and the Big 10. And I think even you look last year, I mean, imagine if there was one less conference game and, some of these teams that were 7-2 are actually 8-1 in conference and 11-1 overall. Like, I think it changes the perception quite a bit. So I think the SEC moving to a similar model will help some of these other conferences out a little bit, because if the comparison is between an 11-2 team from the Big 12 with an 8-4 team from the SEC, I think that the Big 12 teams are going to be in much better position heading forward.
Because the SEC seems to have given in on this point with the 9 conference games, and because they also did that deal where they said you've got to play a 10th team from a power league or Notre Dame, which I like because it'll protect those 4 ACC rivalry games. Bama's been scheduling up. Texas has been scheduling up. Now everybody will need to. But it feels like they gave in to the Big Ten on this point, which means I can't imagine them giving in on the playoff as well. Whatever playoff gets adopted, the SEC is going to have to love it, aren't they? I mean, the collective ego, they're not giving in again.
No, and I think that this was very much a negotiating point. They wanted more focus paid to strength of schedule, but in exchange for the 9 conference games. But I think that it's also a concession that they'll give in to move towards that 5+11 system. The Big Ten has kind of thrown out the 24-28 team playoff. I think that's a non-starter, not just for the SEC, but everyone else in college football. And they don't want to be in a position as well where they're working with the 4 auto bids, with the 4-4-2-2-1 system. So I do think that this does hasten the arrival of the 5+11 16-team playoff. And I think that ultimately that's what almost everybody wants. The Big Ten has kind of been that last holdout because they want to guarantee themselves a few more spots and a little more revenue. But ultimately, I mean, there's not necessarily a whole lot of advantage for anybody to guarantee that many spots because it does devalue, your regular season. It completely devalues your conference championship and your conference championship game. And I think that in almost every year, you'd expect that the Big Ten and SEC will get 4 in regardless in a 16-team system. So I think that ultimately we're hastening the arrival of the 5+11, and I think that's probably good for the sport.
Yeah, plus 2, the season-long publicity that you draw from it and the unveiling of the rankings and all that stuff. It's so, what's the word? I mean, enticing. It's like, even though I want to say, I don't care about that, I find myself sitting in front of the television when they start to do it every week and to see if our locals are going to be in or how high our locals are going to be. And now that BYU's in a conference, the Big 12, it becomes paramount for us in our market because we've got 2 of the 16 teams are in the market, and it draws all sorts of publicity to it. And why would you as a sport want to give away all this free attention that you're getting as the season goes on?
Well, and especially if you are in this world with auto bids, it's like all of a sudden there's only like 3 or 4 teams that will really be impacted by these rankings and by at-large opportunities. And you almost can't play your way in through the at-large system. You have to do it through your conference. And I think that would ultimately be a bad thing for attention and perception. And again, I think that the last thing you want to do is devalue your whole system and the teams that are a part of it based off of trying to guarantee yourself a little more money by getting teams into the playoff.
These are pretty high-profile time slots for the Big 12 Week 1. Fox is starting to put games over the air, which always gets more eyeballs on games. Has there been any talk about ABC doing that? Because it seems like that'd be a huge opportunity for the Big 12s and obviously our local schools, Utah and BYU here. They put games Friday night on ESPN. Nobody's watching primetime anymore for anything but sports. Why not put sports there?
Yeah, I don't know how much conversation there's been about that from ABC. Obviously, you're fighting the sort of broadcast networks and their existing programming. And the other thing, too, is that, different networks have treated Fridays a little bit differently, and even weeknight games in general just a little differently. Fox has been more willing to pull in a Friday night game, has been more willing to pull in a Thursday night game, but you haven't seen that quite the same way from some of these other networks. So I think that what happens with the Friday games and what kind of ratings they get are going to probably spur action one way or another. And now, look, this first week is always a little different because you do have games every single day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and that's not the case most weeks. But Fox, I think, really kind of feels like, hey, this is a place where we can create some advantage for ourselves. And the Big 12, of course, for attention's sake, is willing to acquiesce.
How about the TNT thing? It seems like they want to trump it up a little bit, so maybe there can be some more attention drawn because they're going to make it a big deal. I think Arizona and Hawaii will be the Big 12's first game on TNT with the TNT partnership this week.
No, and I think that it's not just putting it on TNT, which I think will be pretty big for them, but it's also the amount of shoulder programming that TNT and Turner in general is providing, I think is notable. You're seeing some of the inside the Big 12 studio stuff move to True TV. It'll be distributed on Bleacher Report, which obviously is a very powerful brand still. So I think that this was very much something that the Big 12 saw as an opportunity to increase their brand in a lot of key ways. So I think that it's going to work out really well. And again, the biggest conflict that you have with some of these, traditional TV partners is that obviously they're tied into certain leagues. I mean, ESPN, of course, is so tied in to the SEC and ACC. They have exclusive rights. With the Big Ten, it's Fox. With CBS, it's, obviously more Big Ten driven. So I think that having more of these outlets and opportunities to be treated as a priority, I think can only be a good thing.
They got to put Charles Barkley on there at least to do college football gambling. PK has a great Charles Barkley college football Vegas story.
Do you want me to tell it?
Yeah, I think absolutely.
No.
He needs to hear it. This is going to crack him up. He's totally going to be able to visualize this.
I'm a Jimmy Buffett fan, and several years back, you remember when Michigan State and the blocked punt was returned, and Michigan State won the game, right? Mm-hmm. So that was on a Saturday, and so I'm at the MGM in Vegas. And we're going to go to the shows at Vegas. He would do Saturday nights in October. Did it for many, many years. And so we're there. I get that one day off during the season. And get there early, like 4 or 3 o'clock or something. Go to the sports book, obviously. And right as we're getting there and walking in, the Michigan's setting up the punt. And they punt, and it gets blocked. And it was an unbelievable play, right? We all remember that.
Yeah.
The floor area of the sports book is just going nuts. And they all turn around, and it was like the Pope at the Vatican. They turn around, and up in the balcony, everyone, hundreds of people turn around and look up. And who emerges from sitting on a chair on this private balcony? Charles Barkley. And they knew he was there. I didn't know he was there because I had just recently got there, but he had come up and played to the crowd a little bit, so they don't know. Everybody turns and looks to him, and it was the craziest scene I've ever seen in a sports book. So that's what my partner DJ is referring to. And Barkley was carrying on like he does. That's who he is.
He's whooping at the crowd like the block punt won whatever bet parlay he put together. Who knows? So he's fist pumping, and they're all hollering and screaming at him. It had to be a scene straight out of a movie.
It really was. I've been to sports books a million times over, covering a million things in Vegas, and I'd never seen anything like it. And Barkley it was an incredible play, obviously, combined with Charles Barkley, of all people, being there.
Man of the people.
Yeah.
I love it.
John, we appreciate the time. As always, enjoy the first full week, and there'll be, like you said, Big 12 games spread across all these days. It'll be great.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Shehan Jeyarajah joining us right here. CBS Sports National College Football writer, lives in Texas, has an emphasis on the Big 12, and will be joining us every Monday throughout the season to review the games, look at the next week, and then whatever issues are breaking around college football, talk about those as well.
Oh, CBS Sports, one of the go-to websites because of him, and we've had others on also.
Yep, but they provide a lot of coverage.
They do a great job.
You're always looking for one more. I want to read one more thing. Well, we'll go there. They've probably got it.
For sure.
They have a lot of coverage.
They do.
7 writers doing the predictions we were talking about last weekend, so you can see how much content those 7 are cranking out.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that play. 7 readers for 7 writers.
Or 70,000, one way or the other.
7 writers for 7 million readers. There
okay, fine.
Kevin Clark, host of This Is Football on ESPN, joins us next. Stay with us.
It's game week for the Aggies, and the Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. Utah State will kick off the 2025 season with a battle at Maverick Stadium against UTEP. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Aggie football and your chance to win tickets to the game. Then, catch all the play-by-play action, beginning with the Aggie pregame show this Saturday at 4:30 on 1280 The Zone. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK brought to you in part by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at trajanwealth.com. We're joined now by Kevin Clark, host of This Is Football on ESPN. Kevin, good morning.
What's going on, guys? I have to say, local angle here. I went to the University of Miami. They play Notre Dame this weekend. I've been watching Keelan Marion's return for BYU against Utah all week long, hoping for some excitement this weekend. Yeah. I know that's how the transfer portal works now, is you watch other college games you have nothing to do with, hoping for transfer So I've been watching a lot of Utah football and BYU football this week.
Well, that was a very important play in a very heated rivalry that made a big difference. That's for sure. He gets going. He's an exciting player.
Yeah, no, hope so.
Let's pull before we get to the football part. Let's do the journalism broadcasting show part. When you host a show, This Is Football. How excited are you in mid to late August when you finally start to get games? Because I'm listening to some national shows that aren't branded as football. They're branded as wide-ranging shows.
Yeah.
And they have probably done about a week of baseball programming, 2 days around the All-Star break, one around the trade deadline, one around opening day. Maybe like 3 weeks of NBA programming, two around the finals, one around the All-Star game, a little bit around the draft. And then everything else has been football all year. And that's a broad-based show? Oh, my gosh. I mean, I know we love our football, but you need some games.
It's wild. So I do a lot of talk shows and all that stuff, guys. And the one thing I'm just so tired of talking about, more than anything, is what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like with the Steelers. Because I probably answered the question, this is not an exaggeration, across shows, probably 100 times, okay? Probably 100 times, and I said he's going to be the 15th best quarterback in the NFL, all that stuff, right? And that's all they need to win 9 games, 10 games, or whatever. But at some point, I've been dying. Like, we've had the information we've needed since maybe the first week of training camp, guys. Like, maybe 10 days into it, 12 days into it, you play one preseason game, you kind of figure it out. And so we've been doing nothing but talking for 8 months. And I'm with you guys. Like, I'm just so excited for the games to get here. Even the college stuff over the weekend really made me happy because we could just start talking about real ball. One thing about football becoming a 12-month sport is there's just more talking about it. And even the draft, it's all projections, and people talk about, what's this team going to do even in March and February for next year? And the answer is we don't know until we see the ball snapped. And what's amazing in, 10 days, whatever it is, we get to see real ball and we get to stop talking. And then what's funny about it, guys, is it's like the Men in Black, mind eraser thing. We just forgot about every conversation we had for the past 8 months once the ball is spotted.
We don't see a lot of the quarterbacks, the first-team guys, play a whole bunch in the preseason, so we see the youngsters, right? And so you got the situation with a bunch of youngsters and getting opportunities or not getting opportunities. How much do you put in the stock of youngsters at quarterback in the 3 preseason games during the month of August, whether they look good, whether they look bad, to be a determinant as far as how good they'll be? And specifically here, we've got a local kid with Jackson Dart being one of those guys.
As much as I want to say, okay, Jackson Dart's a dude and he's a franchise quarterback and he should be starting week 1, and I do think he should be playing really early, I've pumped the brakes on pretty much all preseason performances as a quarterback. You're going against backups. You're going against, and by the way, like these backups are still worlds better than any team you saw in college, because it's basically a college all-star team in some ways, even if you're talking about the twos, the threes that you're playing against. But what's funny is that I went to the Bengals Eagles preseason game, and they were talking about the defense and Shamar Stewart and the rookies there. And Zach Taylor basically said, guys, we're just keeping it as vanilla as possible. We don't want to show anything. And so for some of these guys on defense, it's just cardio. And so for me, I think you can eliminate yourself from looking like the guy in preseason, but you can't confirm you're the guy in preseason. Nathan Peterman, who's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen at the NFL level, he looked great in the preseason. Daniel Jones had awesome numbers his first preseason with the Giants. So for me, Dart checked all the right boxes. I want to be optimistic about it, but to say, okay, this is the guy, this is the franchise guy, it's too early for that. I'm glad Giants fans. I live in New York. I'm glad Giants fans get a guy to celebrate. That's exciting. I'm not going to say don't do that, but what I am saying is that he's got a long way to go still.
Tyler Huntley played at the U. He was in Baltimore for a while. Now he's bounced around a little bit. It's only preseason football, as you just spelled it out, but he looked good in the preseason. Did he do enough to catch on with somebody? I mean, the Raiders have had a quarterback injury. Somebody else will have a quarterback injury in another week or two. Is he going to catch on, or is it all over for the former Ute?
I think he's going to catch it. I mean, he played 5 games last year. For me, it's knowing what to do is an underrated trait in the NFL, right? Everybody says, hey, we love the athleticism of this guy. We love the ceiling of this guy. What coaches want out of a QB2 or QB3 is a guy who knows how to operate an offense, how to run a huddle, and where to put the ball, okay? So Tyler Huntley has played, I'm going to guess, he's probably started over 10 games in his career, with Baltimore obviously a few years ago, last year with Miami. And so that matters. And when you're determining who's going to be your QB2 or your QB3, as long as the money is right. I mean, he was in an impossible situation in Cleveland. That was a crowded quarterback room. He was always going to be the odd man out. They were always going to keep Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, and then Pickett gets hurt, and then Flacco's the starter. So that was a pretty tough situation. So I'd expect him to catch on somewhere and get another cup of coffee. Again, just guys who know what to do are a valuable commodity in the National Football League.
My sister has Arizona Cardinals season tickets, and she's always asking me about them and what do I think. I'm trying to handicap the NFC West. And I don't know where to go, which direction. Where do I start with? Well, there's a definitive team that everybody's chasing, a la Kansas City, whoever it might be throughout the other divisions. Buffalo, obviously, in the East there for the AFC. What do you think about that division?
It's funny. I've been talking about this for a couple of days now on my shows and on various other things, because I was a Rams optimist. I was buying all the Rams stocks you could possibly get. Then Matthew Stafford's getting, cryogenic back treatment, and they're cagey about his status and all this stuff. And I'm just saying, man, I don't know about this. And so for me, this is a division that's been thrown into chaos, because I thought the Rams were going to run away with it. I thought the Rams were going to make the Super Bowl of the NFC. All of a sudden, you have a Matthew Stafford back issue that could linger. Back issues, I mean, heck, I'm over 30 and I golf. Back issues don't go away. And so I just think that there's a chaos there where I don't think the Niners are going to be as good as they were the last few years. I think the Rams are to come back down to the pack if Matthew Stafford isn't 100%. And I look at a Seahawks team that people are saying might have the best defense in football this year. And then the Cardinals are right there. Kyler Murray we know what his floor is. The ceiling is probably lowered since he came into the league, but he can make an offense happen. Trey McBride's one of the best tight ends in football. The nerds in the NFL love what Jonathan Gannon's been able to scheme up. So I think Arizona is probably going to compete for a wild card spot, and I also just think with the Rams' uneasiness that might be anybody's division at this point.
I can't believe more people aren't picking Seattle. I know they got rid of some big names at wide receiver, but they were the only 10.
It's a Darnold thing.
Yeah, they were the only 10-win team in the NFL last year. They changed quarterbacks, but Darnold showed he can win regular season games against bad and decent teams. The best teams will scheme him up, and it'll probably go poorly. But don't you think that division is there for the taking with 10 or 11 wins?
And I do. Again, that's all dependent on Matthew Stafford's health. If I'm wrong and everybody's wrong and Matthew Stafford's 100%, that team can win 14 games because of that front seven and then the offense and then Sean McVay, okay? But if they're going to be playing Jimmy Garoppolo for 5 games, 6 games, if Matthew Stafford's never going to be 100%, then yes, the division is there for the taking, and Seattle's going to be right there. I'm not a huge Darnold guy. I think Geno Smith's better than Sam Darnold, and so I think there's going to be a downgrade there, but I think Mike McDonald's one of the smartest guys in football. Got to know him a little bit when he was at Baltimore, so I'm in on that program. I think that I'm long-term success, and I do think they can compete kind of like we're talking about the Cardinals for a playoff spot.
Washington with their second-year quarterback. Wow, he didn't look like a rookie last year. You got to give it to him, man. He played well. They got darn near all the way. You have to think that they'll be back. How good is Daniels? Because I don't know that you could ask for much better as a rookie.
Well, it's not just that he was amazing. It's that there's meat left on the bone. And what I mean by that, guys, is he was one of the best deep passers in the history of college football. I think he had more explosive plays, 20-yard plays than anybody ever. He beat Joe Burrow's record, which is pretty darn good. And I'm not talking about LSU record. I'm talking about national record. Obviously, Joe Burrow was something to behold in college and in the NFL. But he didn't show the deep ball last year like that, okay? And so I think there's still room for him to push the ball down the field. I don't know if you guys just saw Terry McLaurin sign a 3-year extension just now, so everything's going to be settled there. I think this has the capability to be a special team. I think the NFC is a little bit wide open. I think the Eagles are very good. They have a couple of personnel questions, but I think they'll solve that. Obviously, I'm talking about the Rams here and how good they can be. I think the Packers are going to be really good. But I think the Commanders are in the first tier for me for NFC contenders. I would not be shocked at all. If the defense is to take a step forward, but they have a defensive head coach and Dan Quinn who knows what to do, and they upgraded the personnel a little bit. The biggest thing for me, guys, is that C.J. Stroud had a massive sophomore slump, and the reason he had a massive sophomore slump was because of the offensive line in Houston. The Commanders were proactive and attacked the offensive line personnel-wise this year, getting Laramie Tunsil and then Josh Conway Jr. in the draft. So I think you've removed that element of it. I think he's going to be awesome.
The Chiefs have been awesome. I think it's 9 straight division titles, 6 straight AFC title games. But talk about improving the offensive line. It's clearly been a weakness for them in this massive run when they've seemed to have almost no weaknesses. But the Chargers and the Broncos with second and third year coaches, the Broncos with a second year quarterback. Is this year somebody else wins the AFC West?
It's gonna be the hardest one. I've gone back and forth. I've picked the Broncos most of the time. I haven't done my official picks anywhere. I haven't submitted them, but I'm leaning towards the Broncos. It's funny. I've got a couple colleagues at ESPN, and it's almost tongue-in-cheek now, where they're they're picking the Broncos to win the division with the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, almost like a cop-out. It's just so funny how scared we are of the Chiefs because they've been the boogeyman. They've been the Terminator. They've annihilated everybody. And so for me, I think the Broncos have the best chance. I think that the Chargers are still a couple of years away, but I think they'll do it at some point. I think the Raiders are going to be good. I think for the first time, guys, the Chiefs have benefited so much, even though they've had playoff success and they've obviously shown themselves to be the best team in the NFL a lot over the past 6 years. But they've benefited from the fact that the Raiders were an easy out. The fact that the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett and Vance Joseph before that were an easy out. The fact that the Chargers couldn't get together. That's not going to happen for the foreseeable future with the head coaches in that division and then the quarterbacks in that division. So for me, I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be the biggest challenge ever.
When's it time to panic about Caleb Williams?
This year, there's no excuses this year. And I just think that last year he had the most unblocked pressures in the history of the league because the offensive line didn't know what it was doing. But he also held on to the ball too long. And I think now you're getting professional offensive line play, offensive coordinator play. There's no excuses. So at the end of this year, we'll know. We will absolutely know. And so I'm not panicking at any point until, honestly, Give him some November to figure it out. Think about somebody like Jordan Love. Halfway through Jordan Love's breakout year, we were wondering if he was the guy, and saying maybe this isn't trending correctly. So give him 8 games this year, figure it out, and then by November we'll know.
A lot of interest in the NFC North here because there's some good football, and the Lions have been a great story, but Jordan Love went to Utah State. Is it the Packers' time to win this division? How big a loss is it for Detroit, the fact that they lose a coordinator who gets so much credit, and he stays in the division and goes to the Bears? And obviously Minnesota lost the quarterback. They're going to turn to a rookie here. How can they possibly repeat what they did last year? Should Love and the Packers win the division now, or should it be Detroit?
Yeah. I picked the Packers to win make the Super Bowl last year, and that didn't turn out to be correct. But I think he was hurt in week 1 in Brazil, if you remember that, Jordan Love. And I think he wasn't able to use his legs enough. And if you guys remember from Utah, at Utah State, he could. The reason he was drafted was because he was good enough. He was obviously an amazing passer, could throw the ball in the bucket, but could also bail out a play with his legs. He wasn't able to do that at all last year, because he was hurt. And so for me, I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, if he's fully healthy, they got Matthew Golden. They led the NFL in drops last year. I think there's a really special chance here. I wish they added one more pass rusher to the front 7, but we'll see what happens with Micah Parsons here or something like that. Maybe a Trey Hendrickson. Maybe they go out and they get something crazy done to try to open up that Super Bowl window. But I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender.
Is there a college team we should be paying attention to because they got an NFL quarterback and about 15 NFL players, so obviously they're going to win?
Don't pay attention to Miami until they show something on the field. I'll say that. Okay. I think LSU is going to be really good. I think LSU is going to beat Clemson. I think Nussmeier, he's got such a quick release. His dad is an NFL coach. And I think they've got studs everywhere. And so I think LSU is as crazy as it sounds, is kind of a dark horse contender for the SEC. When you think about how stacked that is, everyone's picking Texas, and people are talking about South Carolina or Florida as a dark horse. I would watch LSU, and the other one would be Lenora Sellers, the quarterback at South Carolina, who I think is amazing and has the capability if he takes another step as a passer to go first overall this time next year.
As a Miami fan, do you know that the U of U here in Utah, their fans have a bone to pick because they like to think of themselves as the U, but we always hear about Miami being the U. I mean, it is a conflict. I don't know that it'll ever be resolved.
I've heard this. I've also heard that the University of Minnesota calls themselves the U as well, which is even weirder because they're not even a U team. I think we can both. We are. It's going to be awkward. Don't we play in 2 years in Vegas? Mm-hmm. I think that's happening, and so I think we can come to an agreement then. We'll hang out, enjoy Vegas, and we can all have a good time and throw up the U together.
Settle the U.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
Kevin. We appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on and talking football.
Thanks, guys.
Kevin Clark, he's the host of This Is Football on ESPN. DJ and PK, your feedback next.
Hear ye, all business owners, a call to action. I want to endorse your product. Let's get together and be a team, me and you. I want to endorse it, so what you need to do is text PK to 57500, and our sales staff will take care of the rest. Business owners, let's make beautiful money together. Text PK. Let me spell it for you. PK to 57500.
Breaking news from Adam Schefter at ESPN. Commanders and wide receiver Terry McLaurin reached an agreement on a 3-year contract extension that will end his hold-in, get him in uniform for the opener with the Giants. Sources tell Adam Schefter the extension is worth up to $96 million. How much is guaranteed? How much in bonuses? We'll probably get some more reporting on that here in a little while.
I can't wait to find that out.
There it is.
Get back to me on that, those sources. Listening to Devin Dampier there. I'm all about winning. I'd love to have a player. Yeah, I just care about my personal stats, man. As long as I get mine.
As long as I get my numbers and I get paid my NIL, whatever, dude.
Yeah, I win either way. You worry about that other stuff. Excited for him to see what he can do.
Multiple questions up on our Facebook page. Ryder Lyons was awesome in his high school's win on TV Saturday night. Is he the next great BYU quarterback? Rostifer says, well, that depends. Is the earth round?
I don't know. I will talk to my fellow New Jerseyan Kyrie Irving. Yeah, is the earth round? Well, from a global standpoint it is, but there's a lot of flatlands out there. You play Glendale, it's easy to walk. You go play Bountiful Ridge, it's much harder.
Aha!
So it depends.
Not walking Old Mill. Too much up and down there.
Some's is flat, some's is round.
Iowa State beat Kansas State. Did watching this game give you confidence BYU and Utah can win the Big 12 championship? Steve says, after watching this game, it gave me the utmost confidence that BYU will win the ship and that Utah will go 3-8. Not even going to play the 12th game. It's going to go so poorly.
I don't see that. I believe that this year, and mark this down, people, will be the first year that BYU and Utah play each other twice in a season.
There it is.
If not 3 times.
Now you're talking.
For all those who want me to leave the market, if they play 3 times this year.
Oh, no, we're out.
We can never do any better.
They split the first 2. They're both 12-1 because it's the only game they lose.
Yeah.
And then they meet again in the title game.
Yeah.
At 15-1 versus 15-1, be Ollie Frazier, round 3. Give me another
That'd
third
be Ollie
matchup.
Landry and Varsity Blues with
the. Didn't think Ollie Landry was going to get a shout out this morning.
Well, the only thing that could have made that scene better was carrot cake.
Did you? Nice. Tiffany Amber Thiessen reference this morning, too. You don't watch shows.
I would like to eat all that cake.
Did you? Stop. You don't watch shows. Did your wife ever watch Heroes and tell you about her in it? Because there's no way you watched Heroes.
Heroes?
Yeah.
We could be heroes just for one day.
It was a science fiction / adventure.
I love
show.
Science fiction.
She played 2 characters. She played twins. She was good.
That's kind of like Samantha Stevens. She played Samantha, and then her crazy cousin.
There you go.
What was her name?
I don't remember. Do you?
No. Stella.
I
don't know.
Sigma Ute says that Kansas State-Iowa State game, both teams look tough, but that was pretty sloppy football. But it's a rivalry game, season opener, overseas 4,000 miles from home, and it's raining. I make no big judgments.
Oh, I think they're quality teams.
That's what he said. He thought they both looked tough, but beyond that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat them, but maybe it's tough to beat you guys too, BYU and Utah. Yeah, no doubt about it.
All right, DJ and PK, we're all done. Jake and Ben are next, right here on The Zone.